Hello everyone, welcome to the Race.dev Hacktoberfest Help Desk. My name is Joe and I'm your host for our last show of the week. Thank you for joining us. If you are new here to the show, the Hacktoberfest Help Desk is a resource for you this Hacktoberfest to help you land your pull requests to some lovely open source projects. We are here to help you with Hacktoberfest problems, big or small, whether you're trying to get into open source and you don't know where to start, or whether you have a very specific issue with a particular GitHub issue. In that case, we are here to help you get through those problems. Today, we've got another special guest joining us, and I'll introduce them very shortly. But before that, just a couple of things to get through, a couple of ways we work here, and a couple of handy links for you before we kick off the show. So the first one is a less handy link at this time on a Friday, which is our schedule. Our schedule is a twitch.tv RaiseDevs schedule that is updated every weekend for the following week. So currently, that's a useless schedule because this is the last show, so it shows you nothing you don't already know. But I will update it this weekend with all of the information about the shows happening next week, and I will do a brief teaser at the end of the show to tell you what's coming up next week as well. And I'll run you through some of the guests we've got coming next week, so stick around at the end of the show. For that, we've got some very exciting guests coming on next week as well. Secondly, I mentioned that we're here to help you, and that goes for this show and during this show as well. So if at any point you've got a question relevant to what we're speaking about or not, you're very welcome to post it in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to it and answer it before the end of the show. You are also welcome to submit questions to us in advance. If you've got if a question pops up with you over the weekend, or you've got like a really big question that you want to make sure you ask correctly, that kind of thing, you can submit those questions to us at raise.dev Hacktoberfest. And what happens then is we review those questions, get them in front of our lovely guests, and they come here live on the show to answer them, and we'll let you know when that's happening. And if you can't make it live, we'll send you the recording as well. So you can ask your questions to us there at raise.dev Hacktoberfest. So two more things. The chat, as I said, please post in chat. However, for those of you who are new to the stream, the internet is a big and scary place, so we have a very active moderation bot. If you would like to post a link, a URL, a link to your website, to a project, whatever it is, totally fine and encouraged. Just please drop us a warning at RaiseDevs in chat. Let me know you're going to post a link so I can make sure that our bot does not ban you. Someone once a stream gets themselves banned. I expect Matt will demonstrate that for us in a moment because he does every stream. But please don't get yourself banned. That would be great. And then the other thing is, if you are not familiar with Race.dev, you have no idea what we are, well, you're at the right stream, because I guess we're going to talk with that a little bit about, We're going to talk about that a little bit with our guest today, but also you can find out more at Race.dev. We are relatively new. We are in early access. You can find us at the site and you can apply for our program there. The bot is happy with emoji now, Matt, so you won't be able to get yourself banned for that. Oh, actually, yeah, you're a VIP. Matt can't get himself banned anymore, everyone. What a sad day. Yeah, so race.dev, you can find more about us there. We are a service to help you level up in your developer career, whether you're getting your first developer job, making a career change, trying to get promotion, moving from mid-level to senior, whatever it is, we will help you get the experience you need to make the next jump in your career with the help of our expert coaches. So you can sign up for free right now whilst we're in early access, and we'll match you with a coach, and you'll have some, the bot is no longer mean. It's become, we've taught it empathy and kindness since the last show. So you can get everything you need to get where you want to be in your developer career. And you can find out all that information at raise.dev below. And as I said, we will be talking about it a little bit on the show as well. So if you have any questions about that, you can jump in and ask at any time. Okay, so that's all of my waffle for now. Let me add on our guest for the day. Please welcome Frida to the stage. How are you doing, Frida?
Hello, good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I guess I've said a little bit, but to kind of ramp up where we're going, we'll chat about you and your career, and then towards the end we're going to show some issues. We're going to go on issue safari. So I guess a great place to kick off. Would you like to introduce yourself to the folks in the chat who haven't encountered you in the wild before?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Frida. I've been a developer for about 3 years. Currently working with Thoughtbot as a developer consultant. And actually got the opportunity to experience race firsthand as my first job. So yeah, awesome. There's a bit about me.
Awesome, rad, cool. So as we're going to start talking a little bit about your developer journey, and I guess those last 3 years is what we're going to start with. So where did you where did becoming a developer start for you? So you've been a developer for the last 3 years. So I guess there was like some element of career changing here.
Yeah, I definitely was juggling a couple of different focus points in my life. I was teaching music, I was teaching French guitar and classical piano, I was bartending.
Yeah.
All the while still going to school and not really, getting to the place where I wanted to be in my life. And then I got introduced to a boot camp to Flutter in school. And so that sort of that bit changed my life to get to
Wow.
experience the community of developers,
Yeah.
work together. I was definitely blown away by all of the collaboration that development can offer you. So
Right.
yeah, that is where I found my niche, I would say.
That's awesome. So where did you what was your introduction to the Flatiron School and that boot camp? Because jumping there from music, I mean, I guess there's a lot of overlap in the creative expression that coding gives you, but how did that happen?
Yeah, it was actually through some friends that were very, very technical.
Nice.
And I had a lot of different interests, and I sort of bounced around, like I mentioned. I
Yeah.
also dug into a bit of psychology and physics, but ultimately I got to just play around with some code.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I started playing around with Ruby on Rails and ended up loving it. Yeah.
Nice, that's awesome. And so, did you do a particular program at Flatiron School? I know Flatiron School's changing how they structure things a couple of times over the years, but I don't know if the point you went through they had particular paths and programs.
Yeah, they definitely had a lot of different ones. They did data science, software development, and in particular, the one I took was an emphasis on Rails and JavaScript and React. So, yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
Perfect.
Very cool. Right. So yeah, at some point, I've evidently, so I haven't actually heard this story myself, so this is all new to me as well. At some point, evidently, you encountered John and became part of Raise.dev. Yeah. How did that happen?
I saw his tweet, actually. That tweet that went viral, and so many people ended up seeing it, which was really, really cool. I think it was just the way that it was framed. It was just, would you like to take your career to the next level? Would you like to learn the best practices? Yes, especially coming off of boot camp. And I definitely do have a lot of fond memories from being in that program.
That's awesome. This was his mystery hiring tweet, right? Before it had a name, and when it was just I'm looking for some developers to do a thing, right?
Yeah, cool. Exactly. Yeah. And after I saw it initially, I kept seeing it, which was really funny. I saw it initially in my Flatiron Slack, I think it was.
Yeah.
And oops, sorry, that's my dog.
Good. It was a very expressive dog.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you'll hear him barking.
Oh, it's totally fine. Totally fine. We're all everyone's working from home now. We were used to the noises at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, I actually just kept encountering it just in the wild on Twitter.
Right.
I feel like it was just meant to be the universe just saying, hey, look at this. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I'm guessing you applied and met and spoke with John at some point. What was the start of the, so we keep saying the start of the program, but as I kind of alluded to, what we've heard from some past, we had Sukrit and Ching Ching on the show as well, that those early days were a little bit less or structured and clear on what the path was.
Yeah, definitely. I think first day I learned that I didn't know anything about Git, or at least anything I thought that I knew about Git. So that was a lot of fun to sort of get into the ins and outs on the first day and establish those things that you really do need to know as a developer. But we did get to work with a nonprofit called Lemon Tree and work on Rails apps and work with everybody in the team. It was really fun. Yeah, everybody was pair programming, which it's my jam.
That's awesome. Cool. What is it you particularly enjoy about pair programming?
I guess in that case, I would say my coworkers. I love them, Jacob and Ching Ching. Ching Ching has been on the show, so you all know her. But it was really great to hear their points of views. We were all coming from a slightly different background, which I guess tends to happen with developers. But I really enjoyed getting those different opinions from them. Cool.
Awesome. And one of the projects I hear you worked on is very relevant. And in fact, actually, Matt from DigitalOcean is in the chat right now. So I heard you worked on the Hacktoberfest app.
Yeah, definitely. That was a lot of fun. It was my first application where I really got to take charge of the project and sort of take care of maintaining it from the beginning of this. And so that was a lot of fun.
That's super cool. So at the time when you first started working on that, I don't believe there was that the creation of the open source Hacktoberfest app? I don't remember in these super early years that the whole thing was open source.
I believe that it may have been.
Okay, cool.
I don't know for sure. But But yeah, we actually did create Hacktoberfest 2019 from scrap. It was a fresh
Nice.
Rails app, so we
That's
did
super
get
cool.
to sort of
Yeah.
have like a greenfield project there.
Right.
It's really
Yeah.
nice.
That's awesome. And that is a Rails app as well, right? I think I've seen Matt talking about doing
It
Rails,
is.
so I assume it's a Rails app. Cool. Nice. That must be
Yeah.
really exciting, like coming out of bootcamp and then working on like a DigitalOcean, which is like a pretty big, well-known company, but then also like something as big and as like well-known in the developer community as Oktoberfest.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a very exciting time in my life.
Matt said that was the first year the code was open source. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah. Awesome. So at the end of that, you joined Forkbot, which I've heard about. I was pretty sure while I was tweeting about this earlier. What's that? I need to check. I'm very sorry. I think I've got a friend who's at Forkbot, and I'm sure he's at Forkbot, but I now need to check. Yes, he is at Forkbot. Cool. So yeah, I've heard a lot about Forkbot, and it sounds like a really interesting place to work. And I've been in the London office to talk about some Ruby event at some point. What is it like working there? Like, so it's a consultant. You do a lot of consulting, you said.
Yeah, exactly. And I do actually have to thank Race for sort of going in this direction, because we did have a variety of clients. I didn't know that I would enjoy that aspect so much, working with so many different frameworks, different clients, and solving very different problems. So yeah, what I like about working there is it's code, it's development, but it's also so much more than that. We get to a lot of the times just come in and figure out what their actual goals and struggles are, and make a plan of action, whether it's maybe helping out with some best practices, leveling up junior engineers, planning, and just continuous improvement overall. So it's definitely a lot more involved than just coding every day. It does keep me in that sort of creative space where I can really, really think about many different problems that go beyond just code, which I really enjoy.
That's super cool. So like, I guess most of the time you're working on like client engagement. So you're actually working on clients on their projects rather than like an internal code base. How often, like how many clients do you do in a year, I guess is?
It depends. I actually joined right before COVID hit, so it was quite a strange year. And so it does depend. Because of this, we had some contracts extend, some not. Yeah, my last client lasted, I want to say, about 8 months. And so I've just joined the new one. Yeah, it's anywhere from even a month to a year.
Cool. And what kind of like projects do they come to you with? Because again, it's interesting because they clearly have like sizable software in-house, because they're bringing on developers to work on projects that length of time, but there's a need to consult. So I'm really interested in what kind of projects that you're doing with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So my first project was very interesting. We were brought on with an interest in mentoring and sort of leveling up the junior engineers. And so a lot of that was sort of opening up the doors to code review, to all of the best practices that weren't quite there before. Doing test-driven development, automating your dev setup. And having continuous integration and development. It all was sort of a lot of the things that I got to learn at Raise. And I felt like, I can now give back a little bit. You know what I mean? So
that's also
really
so cool that like you're brought in as a consultant to mentor like the junior devs at the company. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it was a really, really great opportunity.
Huh, super cool. So I know that Forkbot itself as well, like, is quite well known for this might be overly like soppy language, but like giving back to a lot of like the things they do. Like they do a lot of open source, and they do so like they do a lot of conferences around the technologies they use. Have you like got to see a lot of that or like participate in any of the open source work that they do?
Yeah, I've been trying to get more and more involved in particularly FactoryBot, a bit in Suspenders, which are projects that Thoughtbot maintains.
Cool.
And what's great about it is I get to work side by side with the maintainers and get their aspect and point of view of the problems that need to be solved, which is more than anyone can ask for when you're contributing to open source, right?
Yeah. Apparently, you
Yeah.
also do great podcasts, according to Hugh Rawlinson in chat.
Oh, great.
Hugh's always on the podcast. Suspenders is a
Yeah.
fantastic name. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say there has been a podcast been going on for a few years, I think since 2012, and
Wow.
highly recommend it. It's great.
I'll have to check it out. Let me see if I can find that link for chat. Very cool. So do you want to talk a little bit about, so you mentioned those two projects. I put a link in there. They're both Ruby-centric projects. I'm really interested in a library for setting up Ruby objects as test data. So that's FactoryBot. So like, what is this? It's obviously something to do with testing. What is this and how does it work?
Yeah, essentially, FactoryBot allows you to recreate all of your essentially data models that you're working with for your tests. Well, it allows you to be as close to your Ruby code as possible. So it's definitely been, my go-to anytime I'm doing any sort of Rails testing. I know that you can create, doubles and stuff like that, but I really like to keep my tests as closely as I can to what I've already set up in development. So yeah, that's essentially a great tool for testing Ruby code.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I also like that in their README, they have a history of the naming of the project. It's come up a couple of times in this show that like naming is the hardest problem in computer science. So it's nice to see due respect paid for it by keeping an actual file log of the project naming history.
yeah.
That's very cool.
There's definitely a lot of conscientious decisions as far as all of our open source. Anytime there's anything that may offend someone, of course we want to go in and look into making changes.
Yeah, for sure. So another question I had around your role. So we've spoken on the show a couple of times now about like trying to make it clear to people that there's many ways to use like software development skills, and that like being behind a desk 9 to 5 as a software engineer, whilst like for some people that's like ideal and the dream is like not necessarily what people want to be doing. For some other folks, it sounds like there's a little bit of that in your like consulting journey. For folks who are like intrigued by like the notion of doing like consultancy or doing software consultancy, do you have any like tips or advice like how to get started?
Join Race. No, there's definitely a lot of different ways. There's also ThoughtBot does an apprenticeship program as well. Cool. Which I'm not sure if it's currently open, but it's out there. But I would say the main thing is just getting involved in more than one project. I think a lot of problems that early career developers have is we sort of stick to just maybe one framework or a handful of projects. And while that's good and it's reinforcing your skills, it's not really forcing you to grow. And I think my biggest, the thing I appreciate the most is the fact that I've been able to grow from all of the different problems I face on a day-to-day. So that's what I would say is, go as far as you can with open source and contribute to as many projects as you can.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's very good advice. Have you had any so you've been working on 2 projects. Have you had any points like during these client things where you've been very put in like a totally different like tech stack or skill set where you're like, oh, I haven't done this before. This is very new.
Well, we do get the opportunity to sort of express the interest in whatever project we want to participate in. So if there's a stack that I'm interested in, or if I want to learn about, DevOps or something of the sort, then we can maybe pair me up with someone who does have that experience so that I can, get that skill and be able to have more clients like that.
That's awesome.
Which does happen. I've been able to dip into Python a little bit more, dip into DevOps a little bit more, all of that good stuff.
Wonderful. Rad. Cool. Yeah. So I guess on the topic of exploring and widening our horizons, I believe you have had a look around for some issues for us that we could get into and show folks for Hacktoberfest.
Yeah, definitely.
Want to talk a little bit about the project that you wanted to take a look at?
Yeah, I actually found this really great org called Ruby for Good. And essentially, they have quite a lot of good projects to contribute to for Hacktoberfest. The description is great. I love it. Dedicated to making the world gooder. It's nice and lighthearted. I do love the fact that it's there's a lot of good first issues for first time contributors, and it's a Rails project. So yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and they've got a lot of projects. There's 60 repos in this their org, across all different kinds of things. There's one. Someone in the Hacktoberfest Discord was asking earlier for projects to do with animals, and they have a abalone conservation app with a Hacktoberfest label. I need to go share that with them. But there was one app in particular that you wanted to have a look at from here, which was Mutual Aid, I believe.
Yes, Mutual Aid. There's a lot of good issues there, and I found a good one that I can sort of talk about, and hopefully get some folks to have a look at some issues like this.
Cool. Should we do a screen share? Setting that up, I will post this issue. Maybe for good. Cool.
Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, that might need to be zoomed in a bit though. You can mash Command plus a little bit. There we go.
Yeah, I've kind of a long monitor. But yeah, I essentially wanted to go in and sort of maybe explain to folks that may not know the GitHub API how you can find Hacktoberfest issues.
That'd be wonderful.
So essentially, once you come to the issues bar, you'll get something autofilled here, which you can then edit as you need. I don't really care that the author is me. I do want it to be an issue because pull requests are actually issues, so that's a good one.
That came up a couple of days ago. We were like, it's very surprising to some people when they first start getting into the API that in a lot of places, like you don't necessarily expect to be getting a pull request, you don't expect to be getting an issue, but in the back end they are the same thing, which is not great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I understand the intent, but it's definitely good to account for that. So all I've done here is essentially add a couple of labels, the little Hacktoberfest and Get First Issue, and this is actually how I found the issue that I'll go into. And you can go into and see what kind of projects are available and what framework sort of interests you. But essentially, I'll go into the one I chose. This is for the repo Mutual Aid, so I can actually display that a bit, and we can have a look at it.
So what is this project? Cool.
Yeah, it's a management platform for groups to build support and strengthen community resilience. So that was sort of the thing that drew me. I definitely love to be involved in the community, and Ruby for Good is such a great name.
And it's a very appropriate project right now, like especially when like people are leaning on their communities and people around them for support, and like aren't able to go shopping because of lockdowns or whatever, and need younger people to go out for them and do that kind of thing. And it sounds like a very useful app in that regard.
Definitely, it definitely seems to be. I recommend. So I had a look at this one. Pretty straightforward issue. We want to essentially make this link, which is behind a login, to be available for anyone.
Cool.
This doesn't seem to be loading. That's okay.
Yeah.
But a couple of things that we can assume. Another thing is when you're contributing to, a new repo that's participating in Hacktoberfest or in general, just getting into open source, you want to, let them know that you're going to have a look at it and look into the contributing rules. So make sure you're following everything. So making this publicly.
That first comment, I feel really mean finding that entertaining, but the first comment is like literally.
I know. They're really nice. You can see that they're actually it's actually my fault. I didn't phrase it very well. But
I can see they changed that. They can change the title. I see. Yeah. Okay. The original title was like, "Hey, anyone can view it." So I see. Actually, that comment makes more sense. Yeah. Oh well. Okay. Cool. I'm sorry. Completely interrupted you.
No worries at all. A couple of things that we can assume from this is that we're probably doing some sort of before action or something that's making our controller go to login. So I actually did get to do a small pull request for this. Nice. I'll try to do my best to go through my process.
Yeah. So we have a bit of a thing here. We've had Rails people on a couple of times on the show, so we probably don't need to explain too much Rails stuff. But there may be folks in the chat who've never seen Rails before, so there might need to be some level of what we're doing.
Absolutely. So I definitely want me to start out with the text.
Cool.
with a test. Sorry, I didn't say
Great.
test. One thing you can see here is that previously the route for the glossary was behind admin.
I see.
So, that's the first thing I had to look at. We probably don't want to have it behind the admin route anymore. We want to just be able to navigate straight into it. So a simple view text to be able to go to the actual view and be able to get the response. And currently I am just checking to see that we see the title, the heading for the view. And create a listing here. That's just because the view actually requires a listing record.
Cool.
Essentially I create a new resource for it. I create a controller dedicated for the glossary. I make sure that we are not doing the authenticate user before action before we head to the index action. And I just sort of remove it from the admin controller, which you can see didn't have a whole lot going on before. And now we can just, have a dedicated resource for our glossary and anyone can go in and navigate to it.
Awesome. So I have a silly question about the admin route. So I know in some Rails-esque frameworks like admin, there is a built-in admin and like the admin route special thing. So I'm thinking of Django in particular. Is the admin route like a default implemented thing that's behind admin controls in Rails, or is that something that Mutual Aid has built into this app explicitly?
No, this is something that Mutual Aid has built in.
Cool.
Essentially, anything that seems to require login is behind an admin route, and so that they've definitely done this. We've customized it this way.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That makes sense. Okay. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, that's a very tidy solution. So I have a whole heap of questions. So
yes,
so you started with the test, and I'm guessing does this project, like when you approach a new project, it's obviously very nice to make sure that the code you're contributing is tested. Did their contributing.md or their contributing guidelines like lay out like give instructions for the testing, or is this something you did because that's how you approach projects anyway?
This is more something I did because it is how I approach projects. This is actually the very first view spec in this project. So that makes me feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
And the more you get into open source projects, every project is at a different level. Some of them do have a lot of specs. This in particular, I think, has a Vue JS front end. So I assume that there's additionally a lot of JavaScript tests that I didn't quite get to dig into. But it's always good to sort of increase test coverage as best as we can.
Or to start test coverage.
Or to start test coverage.
Nice.
Right.
Awesome. And then when you opened the pull request itself, I saw that you had a lot of contents in the pull request. I'm guessing that's a lot of that's from the pull request template. Yeah,
this is a lot of the templates.
Cool.
You'll see I essentially, if we go through this, I essentially grabbed what I committed, which is something nice and descriptive on why I did the change that I did.
What's your commit message methodology?
I essentially just do like a nice descriptive title and then go into detail on a little paragraph below. If it's something that doesn't require a very long description and it's very simple change, then maybe just bullet points is what I'll do to sort of account for a lot of different changes. But yeah, I don't do a whole ton of commits anymore. I found that it's better to just be really, really descriptive with a nice commit message.
Nice. Awesome. Very good.
And so this is all from the template, which is actually really, really impressive. They've got a whole lot of stuff for me to fill out, which is really nice to see.
I'm guessing the test section was something you added to that.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. And so you've added this is a screenshot of the glossary page after, I'm assuming?
Yeah, this is it with the new routes. And
nice. So you're showing you can access
nice for them to see, hey, I need to still log in, but I can see it.
That's super cool. So like, I guess, so you mentioned, you briefly mentioned like earlier that like when you're new to these projects, it's good to like pop up in the issue and say, hey, I'm going to take this. So I guess like you being new to this project and this being your first contribution to this project, like, was there anything that you were like conscious of or thinking of about as you wrote this pull request around being like, hey, I'm turning up in this project and adding code to this?
Yeah, definitely. I think the main thing for me is, oh, maybe there's a reason I don't realize why they have the glossary route under admin, and maybe
Right.
there's a workaround that they'd like to do. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, here it is. I want to ensure that changes are okay
Nice.
with maintainers
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
particularly the route.
Yeah. Because the original issue didn't describe an implementation, right? They just described the problem and left
Right,
it open for you.
exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's kind of like the main thing, as well
Yeah.
as my first thought for testing this was, I'll write a capybara feature test.
Right.
Only to realize they don't actually use capybara or any sort of feature test for Rails at least.
Right.
So yeah, went with the view test to not add a new dependency to the project without them
Nice.
asking me to.
Yes. Yeah. That's come up. We touched on that very briefly in an earlier episode, but like there's I see people try to solve a problem with like an easy solution by importing some library that actually just solves that problem quite often. And I don't think people realize like how much effort some maintainers put into keeping like dependencies and the amount of stuff they're building in the project relatively lean. And the cost of adding one can be quite a lot of overhead.
Yeah,
It's a good thing to
exactly.
avoid if you can. Very cool.
Definitely. Yeah.
Wonderful. So this was the first issue you found, which obviously you fixed. And there were some other issues that you had found as well, right?
There was another one that I saw was pretty interesting. I think it was, I forgot to pull it up, but I think it was 611. Yeah, this is one. Yeah. I'm going to repeat this, but there's a lot of great issues for first-time contributors here, especially for folks who like Rails.
I love that they've actually got a label that says add comment to claim. That's a nice way of making that instruction
clear.
clear.
Isn't it? Yeah, I really thought that too. And so for this particular one, an admin can see who created a help ticket. So you can assume this app has some sort of functionality or feature that allows users to create help tickets. So we can probably, I didn't actually get to solve this one, but we can probably assume that there's going to be a help tickets table. Since Maybe here has commented, hey, you have to add these 2 columns to help ticket. So, you can assume that record exists, and that all that it will probably consist of is essentially ensuring that we're auto-populating these fields after we've added them to our record on whenever the user submits the form. So this, in my eyes, I see this as a great opportunity to implement the feature spec before you actually make the changes, and watch it fail, and ensure that it passes afterwards. Yeah.
Super cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you got any tips for anyone who wants to dive in and take this one?
Besides commenting to grab it, I would say have a look through the code, see how things are set up. I like to, before I commit to anything, have a look through what they've got going on, all of their dependencies. To contribute, they have a great guide. That's another thing that really appeals to me, is that they've got a good guide for people that maybe just getting into the project for the first time. So yeah, I think they use Docker. Getting to know all of the dependencies is good, because a lot of the times you're not going to have them. And they've got some scripts, which is also really appealing. Yeah.
Did you have to? Did John make you do the whole? What's the scripts to rule them all thing when you were going for Rails.dev?
Yeah, definitely. I learned about that from Chris Ewald, and I thought it was a great pattern. I do that all the time now. We essentially have, we try to get our clients to get on board with scripts, just to set up your dev environment, especially for if you're onboarding, new developers, and it takes a week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks, which has happened. Then you really want to have a look at, maybe how many problems will a script solve for us? A lot of the times it's quite a lot of problems that it'll solve.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even like you laughed at 3 weeks, but I was talking to someone. I can't remember. Time is immaterial now. I was talking to someone recently who was saying like, "Yeah, I've just been at my job like 5-6 months, just starting to feel like I'm onboarded now." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a while." But yeah, it can sometimes, especially inside the code base and whatever you're working on, take a very long time. So if you can cut that down, especially with some languages. I don't know if it's as bad in Ruby, but there are some languages where like getting your development environment set up for a project is a little bit harder than others. I see Kushtos is in the chat. If I have to install another Growl VM version, Kushtos, to use our project, I'm going to scream. So for some projects, definitely easier than others to onboard with a script.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you were, as you were looking for these projects, so you were looking for like issues to talk about on the show beforehand. You mentioned a couple of things you looked for. So like obviously just the cause of this one was like a great, I think something that attracted you. And also you mentioned that you looked at the contributing.md. Was there anything else, like when you approach a good project, you're like, hey, do I want to be part of this project? Is there anything else that you look for?
I essentially, there's a couple of repos that I do like. So I go in and see if there's any, good issues open. So that's kind of my get-go is.
Cool.
I mentioned like factory bot and suspenders being some of the things that I've been contributing to. So, I'll check those out. And if I don't see anything that particularly draws my attention, then, I'll just come back here and essentially, add any sort of, category that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That's essentially my process.
It's a good process. One other thing I had on my list to talk to you about, because when we originally talked about doing Issue Safari, you brought up Sonic Pi, which I was very excited about because it's a really awesome project. And now knowing your background in music, that's even more exciting. So I'm guessing that's how you got interested in Sonic Pi?
Yeah, I don't particularly remember how I came across it, but I realized that it was open source. And for those who don't know, Sonic Pi is this really great application where you can sort of learn to code while making music. And it connects to this API that Sonic Pi has built, which is a lot of fun. This is definitely something I would recommend people look into as well. However, the issues here are a little bit more involved. So it would be for folks that are a little more proficient in Python and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, it does have a pretty big ecosystem of stuff though. So I imagine there's probably an easier project somewhere down the line, but it itself is a pretty advanced application. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, I definitely used Sonic Pi a whole ton when I was learning code, and it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. What kind of stuff were you doing with it? Just like play around and making sounds.
Making sounds. I definitely tried to get a little set going so that I could do some live coding at some tech events, but then COVID hit, unfortunately. So
you're
gonna
try and do some like Algorave.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's got all kinds of different music types too, from classical to. I felt like we were listening to club music whenever we were starting the show. I was definitely jamming a little bit.
my royalty-free upbeat playlist is
so good.
Has some real bops in it. Yeah. Have you like poked around any other Algorave libraries, like music libraries and stuff? I guess like I'm very intrigued to the extent that you still get to like use your music background in code. I imagine you're mostly busy with the day job, but
no, actually this has been mostly it for me. I do like Raspberry Pi, so I started to build a theremin with it.
Awesome.
So that's definitely been fun building that. I'm just still getting the parts, so fortunately I can't showcase it yet.
That's super cool. Awesome. So yeah, I highly recommend Sonic Pi. I saw Sam Aaron speak at MozFest like 4 years ago about writing Sonic Pi. Yeah, super cool dude. He was actually, that was in the kids zone as well. He brought a bunch of Pies to MozFest and just like they all had Sonic Pi ready, and he just like put like a class of 30 kids on them and just got them going. It was super cool.
Oh man, yeah,
really cool dude. So yeah, that's a really helpful intro to what I hope is a good project. We've kind of had like a very code for good day today. This morning we were looking at the open sourcing mental illness project, and now we've had Ruby for Good and mutual aid. So that issue that Frida showed us that is left for someone to solve is 611. The link is up on the screen. I'll get that into the Hacktoberfest Discord after this, and I already sent the Abalone project that we saw to the person who was looking for conservation issues. So if you're still looking for an issue, 611 on Ruby for Good. We've had a lot of people on the show who have been wondering why we talk about Rails so much, because we have a lot of Rails devs on, and have been like, should I learn Rails? Contributing to Ruby to Good seems like a good excuse to learn Rails to me.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Rails. I mean, I definitely have played around with a lot of other frameworks,
Right.
but I love Rails.
Cool.
There's nothing that I've experienced that is as much fun for me.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Rad. Cool. Well, I don't have any more questions. Is there anything you'd like to talk about or plug or anything like that before we depart?
No, I don't think so.
Wonderful.
Have a happy Hacktoberfest, everyone.
Yeah, we will. If anyone wants to like ask any questions about your experiences or anything like that, is there a particular place on the internet they can find you?
Yeah, I think though that it's mostly just LinkedIn. Let me grab a link for you. Yeah, feel free to message me anytime.
Yeah, that's the one. There we go. So yep, that's in chat.
Thank you.
Wonderful, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy your weekend. As I said, I'm going to do the incredibly inelegant. I haven't found a way to say goodbye to guest chat. I'm sorry, I'm too socially awkward after 6 months of COVID. So thank you for joining us. I will shop you backstage and let you get on with your weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. Catch you later. Bye. Alrighty, thank you so much, Frida. Again, there's a whole heap of links in our chat. We've got the open source projects that Frida spoke about that she works on at FactoryBot, at FortBot, FactoryBot and Suspenders. There's Bike Shed FM that Hugh threw in there. That's the FortBot podcast. There's the FortBot apprenticeship. We've got Ruby for Good. We've got the issues that we covered, and also Frida's LinkedIn if you have any further questions. So thank you so much, Frida, for your time. This is our last show for the week. We don't do shows over the weekend, so we'll be back next week. Let me give you a little teaser of what is to come next week. We have well, first of all, one thing we don't have, and I'm very upset, I need to go have words with Mr. Simon. Simon, the Rails dev here at Rails.dev, who built our lovely Rails app, has cancelled on me for Monday, so that's controversial. So I need to find out why we don't have Simon on Monday. What we do have on Monday is the Pterodactyl project. So we've got Anand Kapoor and Dane. They are maintainers of the Pterodactyl project. The Pterodactyl project is a open source piece of software for managing game servers. That's super cool. They're going to be with us this time on Monday. Tuesday, we have a really full day. We've got Erica Heidi, technical writer at DigitalOcean, on the first show. We've got Jason Etkovich from GitHub on the second show. And we've got Sarah Griffiths from Microsoft, who works in a lot of education fields, for the last show. Wednesday, he's heard me say this so many times now. Wednesday is a very special show because we've got Matt Cowley himself, the man behind Hacktoberfest. Well, not the only person behind Hacktoberfest, but the current public face of Hacktoberfest, joining us. And I expect we're going to be talking about Hacktoberfest and talking about some of the stuff he's been working on. We've got Daniel from Strappy.js in the middle show, and we've got a new entry in the calendar. We have Mr. Hugh Rawlinson from chat, the famous Hugh Rawlinson from the Twitch chat, on Wednesday afternoon. Hugh, what are we doing? You need to send me your choice for my lovely segments document. And then Thursday, Hugh from chat. Hugh from chat, also from other places, many open source projects. Are we going to do... sorry, it's Friday night. I've completed a brain fart. Hugh from chat. Hugh works a very cool music-focused open source project, analysis project. And I literally cannot remember its name because it's 11 p.m. and I'm a non-functional human. I'm sure he'll tell me the name in a minute. But we've got Hugh on Maida. There we go. Hugh works on Maida. So possibly that. We'll see what we're doing with Hugh. Thursday, we have Adrian Howard from Coria. We have Jennifer Davis from Microsoft. And then Friday, we have Josh Zilak from Orbit. We have Stefan Young from Customer.io, and we have Corey Alexander. So a hugely packed week next week. Some really great shows coming up. That schedule I'll get up on the site over the weekend at twitch.tv raisdev schedule. And then other than that, if you want to get notified when we go live, as we go live so often, it can be hard to keep track of. If you'd like to get notified, drop us a follow. You can click the little love heart and click the bell on Twitch, and that will give you the updates as they happen. You can also follow us on Twitter at RaisedDevs, where we tweet an hour before every show, so you can always keep up with what we're doing. And if you need help leveling up your developer career, getting your first job, learning what Rails is, moving from senior to mid-level to senior rather, doing a career change, maybe from music into dev, any of those things, or from, as Layla, one of our guests, did last week, from horse riding into development. We have all sorts of interesting paths on the show this week. If you need help with any of those things, we can help you here at Raise.Dev with the help of our expert coaches. You can sign up completely for free today whilst you're in early access. One thing to note, there is a bit of a demand at the moment. We've got a bit of a queue. So the app will tell you that you're in the wait list after you sign up. Do not be alarmed. I've had people come into chat saying, oh no, I missed out on the opportunity. That is not the case. We will get you matched. This isn't one of those like, once we have 1,000 people, we close the app kind of thing. No, it's a genuine wait list. We will get you matched with a coach. It will just take a little bit longer. So thank you for your patience, and we will get you matched with a coach as soon as possible. So that is all from me this week. I'm going to go sleep for 48 hours straight. It's going to be wonderful. If we see you next week, which I hope we do, look forward to seeing you on one of our shows. Otherwise, enjoy whatever it is you do over the weekend and next week. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today and in any other streams you've tuned into. And I hope to see you soon. Farewell.